Hello, thank you for inviting me. The first thing I want to say is that I'm not working for a game studio. I belong to the strange breed of media artists. We do occasionally do similar things. We also made some games. Maybe one big difference is that we don't pay so much taxes and more feast on the taxpayers' money. Sorry about that. But we also don't make profit, so it evens it out. So I'm part of the group Gold Extra. You can see 6 people there, vaguely. One of them will speak later in the afternoon, Georg Hobmeier, who also has its own game company. And we work in the intersections of performance, visual arts, music, hybrid media, and come from different backgrounds. I come more from filming, documentary background. Others come from theater, performance, animation, and that sort of stuff. Recently we did a lot of games. Some of them were called, our first game or total conversion of a mod was called Frontiers. We made that was a multiplayer game. Then we did a single-player game or interactive documentary game called From Darkness, Totem Sound. We are always searching for new forms of narration, and also recently exploring the field of virtual reality as also a new form of narration and as a translator of an experience that one can have as opposed to consuming something. These are 4 examples. Totem Sound was also of different forms that our ideas take, so they are not necessarily games. So this is the Totem Sound is a augmented reality installation in the Ethnological Museum of Berlin. From Darkness, already mentioned, deals with life realities in Eastern Africa, where we also did thorough research. We went there for quite a while and made this interactive documentary. Local Crisis Machine is an actual machine. It's a installation sort of that you can trigger with a lever, and that deals with the crisis in Europe after the financial crisis. And Frankenstein is a robot theater piece, which we think is the world needs robot theater pieces. A characteristic of our work is the relation between human and technology. We're kind of fond of that. Curse or blessing. I guess you all experienced the curses and blessings of technology. That's why you probably do what you do. You see Georg on the left in a work called Impulse, where he has electrodes in his face that where the audience can control with a Wii controller his facial muscles while he is holding lectures about the relation of human and technology, and occasionally spilling coffee on his audience. You see also this is the robot pieces we made that deals with the mechanization of the healthcare sector, which is more and more mechanized, and robots are coming in. I'm just briefly mentioning them. This other piece is another robot piece we did. This was the first one. You see the robots were growing a little bit in the meantime. And the other one is a sort of Hamlet version, black box. So why was I talking about these things? Because one other principle that we have is that we first have an idea and then we search for a form for that idea. It's not like we have this new technology and we want to do something with that technology. It's more the other way around. And that's the multiplayer game Frontiers, where you can take the role of a refugee that wants to enter Europe, or you can prevent the refugees from entering. For this we also did a lot of research, and we went to the European borders and did a lot of interviews with refugees, etc. This is from 2007, so it's quite a dinosaur. So yeah, I'm gonna skip this a little bit to not take too long, and gonna talk about Stranger Home, which is the title of the speech, so I should talk about it. This is a project that we did this year. So after doing a lot of other things beyond the borders, we came back to our hometown, Salzburg, back to the roots, and see how it feels to be a foreigner in our own town. And I was mentioning idea and form. And so we decided to find the right form for this idea by just trying out 3 different forms and just making them publicly, instead of, normally this is an internal process where we find the right form. And this time we wanted to just do it all publicly. And these 3 forms are an analog outdoor game in a bus, which is also kind of performance, a VR installation, and a mobile app, all surrounding the same idea. So the idea is to have something, we all have something familiar in our lives, maybe a town or a person, and that notion that this very familiar thing can turn into something very foreign or very strange or very weird, or we see a different aspect of that thing. And that can be also a positive thing, to discover something that we maybe thought is boring or became boring, and suddenly it becomes interesting again. So we wanted to do that with our town, with our city. It's rather a town. To discover the known, the unknown within the known. And so we went to communities, we did interviews with ethnic groups in Salzburg, with subcultures, stuff that you usually don't associate with the beautiful Baroque town of Salzburg, with the beautiful nature and the Baroque churches and the sound of music and the classical festivals and the Mozart balls or Mozart's Kugels. So we went also, we also explored the Nazism, which is unfortunately still a part of Salzburg, more than one might think. Architecture can be foreign, and there's some places in Salzburg where you just don't know where you are, and they don't look like Salzburg. And and archives and newspapers and so on. And we took this material, and so this analog version is, we had to take a bus, we had to close the windows so you can't look out, we have to take some audience, and the game, which is in all 3 forms parallel, is we teleport people to certain places and ask them where they are. And of course you have to find good locations where it's really difficult to know where you are. But yeah, that needed some research. But so we brought these people within 2 hours to 6 locations, and they could play in teams against each other. And of course, in a VR or in a game, you can just teleport yourself. That was the idea of a VR version of this, that you can have the immersion and you can just beam yourself to different places. But you need some time to do that in the real life, so we needed to also have something going on in the bus. There's these 2 actresses that also process the material that I mentioned before with the Nazism of Salzburg, etc., and asks them questions, and they can gain additional points, which will add to their whole score. And at the end, there will be a winner, and it will be a mix of their location points and their quiz points. Yeah, I think here they're approaching the last location, and where they have then a sort of Siegerehrung. What's that in English? Fine. Award ceremony, exactly. So yeah. Then we did, I have to say, this is not about making polished products. This was about this experiment, exploring these different forms. The app, of course, has the advantage that it has a low technical threshold, So you can, even if you don't have a ticket, you didn't get a ticket to the performance, you can just download it on your phone. You have a geolocation app, also a geolocation function where you can actually find those places. So at the beginning you choose a random place, and then you have certain time to recognize it and to place it on a map. And then if you're close enough, you can actually go there and find it and get additional points. This takes a while, so I'm gonna skip to, and also it gets the nerds to the streets. That was also an idea. And you can actually go and download a test version on our web page. This was part of in the development. The VR version we did in cooperation with FH Hagenberg. This is Georgi Kostov, who did the programming for the VR version. And of course it has its own advantages, the immersion that you have when you look around with the HTC Vive. And it also this VR version has a sort of arcade thing that we will also, here you can see we did different testings in different situations, beta testings and small testings, big testings. And I'm also, yes, okay, I'm actually at the end. The outlooks for this project are, we are going to present it again on the 26th of September in Salzburg. There might be a Chilean version from Santiago de Chile. The lesson that we learned with this project is, or what I found is that it's really important to try new stuff, even if there's no guidelines and no one has done it before. We didn't know what's going to happen in a bus when you close it and you drive around. We didn't know if the people are going to vomit all over the place. It happened a little bit, but it was under control. It's definitely worth it. Fun for us to watch. And so don't be afraid to test different forms for your idea, and changing the perspective from time to time, going to different places instead of just stay with where you are, and just try to discover the unfamiliar within the familiar. Thank you.